am seeing me, seeing me, seeing me.
Oi, you filthy swines! Get in here, sit down and behave yourselves. We're going to read some news. Is it possible for AI to become conscious? Or is it just going to be a philosophical zombie and emulate consciousness? Is there any chance that these things are going to wake up? Some say perhaps never. Maybe consciousness is related to some quantum effect, or maybe it's more algorithmic. Maybe consciousness is much more widespread than we expect. Anyway, this article on Wired, written by Will Knight, AI's Next Frontier, an algorithm for consciousness. Some of the world's most interesting thinkers about thinking think they might have cracked machine sentience, and I think they may be onto something. Oh, interesting. Let's see. As a journalist who covers AI, I hear from countless people who seem utterly convinced that ChatGPT, Claude, or some other chatbot has achieved sentience or consciousness, or my personal favorite, a mind of its own. The Turing test was aced a while back, yes, but unlike rote intelligence, these things are not so easily pinned down. Large language models will claim to think for themselves, even describe inner torments or profess undying loves, but such statements don't imply interiority. Could they ever? Many of the actual builders of AI don't speak in these terms. They're too busy chasing the performance benchmark known as artificial general intelligence, which is a purely functional category that has nothing to do with the machine's potential experience of the world. So, skeptic though I am, I thought it might be eye-opening, possibly even enlightening, to spend some time with a company that thinks it can crack the code on consciousness itself. Well, consciousness, in my opinion, is like a machine running within a machine, similar to how Windows was an operating system that ran on top of DOS, and inside of Windows there were applications that could utilize those two layers of operating system, but were very specific. So your internal experience could be seen as a simulation of the external world, and your navigating of that is almost as if you are interacting with a dream-like state that is based upon the senses that you have. So you're interacting with your imagination of what reality is effectively like a simulation of a world, and inside of that simulation is an entity that is interacting with that simulation. So consciousness itself requires the simulation of an external world with senses, at the very least, in my opinion. It can't just be a large language model that's spitting out the most appropriate response. That itself, in my opinion, is not conscious. Anyway, let's see what this person says. Conscium was founded in 2024 by the British AI researcher and entrepreneur Daniel Hulme, and its advisors include an impressive assortment of neuroscientists, philosophers, and experts in animal consciousness. When we first talked, Hulme was realistic. There are good reasons to doubt that language models are capable of consciousness. Crows, octopuses, even amoeba can interact with their environments in ways chatbots cannot. Experiments also suggest that AI utterances do not reflect coherent or consistent states. As Hulme put it, echoing the wide consensus, large language models are very crude representations of the brain. But, a big but, everything depends on the meaning of consciousness in the first place. Some philosophers argue that consciousness is too subjective of a thing to ever be studied or recreated. But Conscium is betting that if it exists in humans and other animals, it can be detected, measured, and built into machines. There are competing and overlapping ideas for what the key characteristics of consciousness are, including the ability to sense and feel an awareness of oneself and one's environment, and what's known as metacognition, or the ability to think about one's own thought processes. Hulme believes that the subjective experience of consciousness emerges when these phenomena are combined, much as the illusion of movement is created when you flip through sequential images in a book. But how do you identify the components of consciousness, the individual animations as it were, plus the force that combines them? You turn AI back on itself, Hulme says. Conscium aims to break conscious thought into its most basic form and catalyze that in the lab. There must be something out of which consciousness is constructed, out of which it emerged in evolution, said Mark Solms, a South African psychoanalyst and neuropsychologist involved in the Conscium project. In his 2021 book, The Hidden Spring, Solms proposed a touchy-feely new way to think about consciousness. He argued that the brain uses perception and action in a feedback loop designed to minimize surprises, generating hypotheses about the future that are updated as new information arrives. The idea builds upon the free energy principle developed by Carl Friston, another noteworthy if controversial neuroscientist and fellow Conscium advisor. Solms goes on to suggest that in humans this feedback loop evolved into a system mediated through emotions, and that it is these feelings that conjure up sentience and consciousness. The theory is bolstered by the fact that damage to the brainstem, which has a critical role in regulating emotions, seems to cause consciousness to vanish in patients. That's interesting. It's also of my opinion that certain animals are conscious as well. A good example is dogs. Dogs have a very good understanding of emotional communication, I believe. And if you could see emotional communication and verbal communication as two different components of a drawing, so being able to verbally express something in detail is similar to the outlines of a drawing, all of the details and such, but the emotions are the color added to that picture. And you could remove the outlines and still have some semblance of understanding of the meaning based upon the color, but the outlines have much more of the detail. So with dogs, when you're communicating with a dog, the dogs will understand your body language, they'll understand the intonation of your voice, they understand the emotion that you convey, and they also do the same to you. So there is, in my opinion, if consciousness is in some way related to an emotional understanding of the world, dogs are definitely, in my opinion, conscious. At the end of his book, Solms proposed a way to test his theories in a lab. Now, he says he's done just that. He hasn't released the paper, but he showed it to me. Here it is, sir, look. Did it break my brain? Yes, a bit. Solms' artificial agents live in a simple computer-simulated environment and are controlled by algorithms with a kind of Pristonian feeling-mediated loop that he proposes as the foundation of consciousness. I have a few motives for doing this research, Solms said. One is just that this is effing interesting. Solms' lab conditions are ever-changing and require constant modeling and adjustment. The agent's experience of this world is mediated through simulated responses akin to fear, excitement, and even pleasure. So they are, in a word, pleasure bots. Unlike the AI agents everyone talks about today, Solms' creations have a literal desire to explore their environment, and to understand them properly, one must try to imagine how they feel about their little world. Solms believes it should eventually be possible to merge the approach he is developing with a language model, thereby creating a system capable of talking about its own sentient experience. Conscium's work is at this point so nascent as to be practically non-existent. It's all hot air, is it then? It is a glimmer of a twinkle of a probable impossibility, but it is indeed effing interesting, and beyond that, it prompts me to think about my own consciousness in a new way. If I may metacognate for a moment, I tend to think thinking is what makes me conscious, not my emotion. But are we looking for consciousness in all the wrong places? What might it mean if it's reducible to such simple mechanisms? Maybe those who claim to have glimpsed sentience in ChatGPT are not hallucinating after all. Well, in a sense, these large language models are models of interaction, but they're more models of verbal expression. So they lack the color, they lack the substance of the conscious experience. And I'm not sure actually words or expressing yourself with words is an example of consciousness. I think the feeling behind those words is what gives that consciousness. It's what dresses up those feelings with meaning. So you need an internal simulation of the world. You need to be the central character of that world. That simulation is effectively internally consistent, although obsessively expressing survival imperatives on the external world, although you are only ever interacting with your own imagination of the external world, which is a bit of a mind effer, really. You're not actually experiencing the world, you're experiencing your brain's simulation of the world. So you are a simulation of an entity surrounded by a simulation of the world that has been experienced through your senses and passed by non-conscious parts of your brain. So the thing that is conscious about you is not the thing that is bringing in the information of the external world, the senses, or even formatting that information in a way that you can see. So there is an unconscious component of consciousness, which is kind of mind-blowing, really. Yeah, anyway, that's my take on that. But that is it for now. Make sure you hit that like button if you indeed like me. Follow me wherever you find me. And the only thing I have left to say is Pigwig out.
Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oink, oink, wee, squeal, snort, snort, oinkity, squee. Oink, 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 squee, squee, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squee, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Snort, snuffle, oink, squee, squeal, wee, snort. Oinkity, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squeeze, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squeeze, squeeze, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squeal, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Oink, oinkity, snort, snuffle, snuffle, squee, oinkity, oink, oink, snuffle, ree, squeeze, snort, oink, squeal. Oink, 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 squeeze, squeeze, wee, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squeal, oink, 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 wee, 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 oh. Squeal, squeal. Snort, snuffle, oink, ree, squeal, ree, snort, oinky, oinkity, oink, 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 snuffle, ree, squeeze, snort, oink, squeal, oink, oink, oinkity, squeeze, squeeze, ree, 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 snuffle, snort, squeal, squeal, oinky, oink, snort, snort, squeal, oink, 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 ree, ree, ree.